Wait, you want to smoke one of those unicorns now? Dude, we only got 3 left, man. And after we smoke them, they're gone forever. Let's save them for a special occasion. I say we smoke this little bitch. Ooh. Oh, come on, man. I roll a perfect Silent Bob, and you're pissed about it? This motherfucker belongs in a museum, son. Light it up.
What made you want to kind of go back and revisit Jay and Silent Bob after all this time?
Honestly, like, the only reason I still do movies at this point is because the young version of me, the 21-year-old Kevin Smith who saw Slacker and was like, I want to be a filmmaker. He got us here. The only reason I'm sitting here today is because that kid made this like kooky decision to try to make a movie even though he didn't know how to make one. And it worked out. And because it's so user-friendly and it looks so sad, it looks like it was made with spit and glue. It's a movie that people could take into their hearts and stuff like that. And so that kid dreamed of this. Like he had a very limited imagination and stuff. Visionary enough to try to make a movie even though like he didn't know how to and stuff. But he only dreamed about being a filmmaker. Now, because of the journey he took, I have gotten to live this incredible life where I get all the benefits of the one decision that that kid made and stuff. And, you know, now I kind of make movies to honor the kid because that's all he wanted. Like, you know, I would love to go back in time and meet him and be like, you want to be a filmmaker? That's adorable. One day you're going to be so much more than a filmmaker. You're going to be famous just for being you. Like, you don't have to put work out anymore. You'll sit around and talk about other people's movies and people will still want to listen to what you say. So I learned how to be me for a living, and I could have dropped movies altogether and stuff like that because it really wasn't about making films. It was about having a conversation with the audience. Clerks is really me going, hey man, my name's Kevin Smith. I'd like to talk to you until the day I die. So film instigated like the rest of the career and podcasting and stand-up and all that other stuff. But I still go back and make films even though I don't need them anymore. Like I can have a conversation with the audience without a movie. It's less expensive. But I do it because the kid who got us here loved movies. And this is what he dreamed about. Like I said, he dreamed like, what if these characters like really took off? So I don't dream about those things anymore because like I'm grown up and I've got other things that I dream about. That kid dreamed about this. And since that kid got us here, I keep making movies for that kid. Because somewhere inside of me is that kid, which sounds dirtier than I mean it. But that kid still dreams about like being taken seriously as a filmmaker. And the adult version of that kid knows that that doesn't matter. It's not important and stuff. But because it mattered to that kid, I still try to feed that kid.
You in the mood for anything else? You did not just offer me your old man dick. Okay, fine. Whip it out. Come on, just whip it out.
With these particular characters as well, I mean, and I don't want to dwell too much on the heart attack thing, but it's the kind of life event that kind of tends to prompt a bit of soul searching.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Kind of stuff. Did that have any kind of bearing on your decision to go back and do this, or do you think you would have done it anyway?
We were trying to make this movie before the heart attack, but the heart attack threw a lacquer of heart on top of it. So in the beginning, I was just making a movie that was like, hey, we're gonna make a movie that sequelizes, remakes, reboots, and sequels while being all three at the same time. Like that's the joke of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It's the exact same fucking movie, I would tell people. And really, it changed after the heart attack because when I had the heart attack, the doctor was like, you have an 80% chance of dying tonight. And he's like, you know, you're having a widowmaker. And 80% of cases of 100% blockage like you got, the patient always dies. So he's going, but I'm going to try to put you in the 20% because I'm good at my job. And he went about his business, and I just had to lay there with that information, thinking about it. And I was like, well, this is it. This could be the end of your life tonight. And what do you think? You've spent your whole life with your head up your ass analyzing yourself. This is the big moment. This is the moment you've been waiting for your whole life, the one you've been scared about. What do you think? And I was okay. I was actually okay with the idea of dying. Like, oddly enough, I was always like terrified of dying and stuff. But suddenly I was like, oh, I get it. Like, everything ends. And this is just the way I graduated high school. It's like, that ends, and then you go on to something else. And maybe this is it. Maybe I just go into a box and rot in the earth and whatnot. But like, of course it has to conclude. And so I was content. I wasn't like, man, I'm gonna die, death. Like, I didn't want it, but I was like, in a world where it's happening, I could kind of accept that. And I felt utterly at peace. And then suddenly I was seized by this notion of regret. I was like, if I die tonight, Yoga Hosers is the last movie I ever made. Fuck. And so I became desperate to live because I knew Jay and Silent Bob Reboot would be a better movie to die on. It's a movie that encapsulates my entire career, podcasting, stand-up stuff, my personal life. My wife's in it, my kid's in, one of the stars in it. My other kid, Jason Mewes, is the star of it. My mom's in it, Jason's wife's in it, his kid. So it was this big scrapbook family affair, and at the end of the day, it was always gonna be somewhat sweet because he finds out he has a long-lost daughter, but it became even more so because of the heart attack. Because I realized I was living on borrowed time. We all are, but I'm acutely aware of it because I saw the end and stuff like that. And at that point, I was like, oh, I don't have enough time to screw around. And I also don't have enough time to be scared of other people anymore. I stopped making movies like this, like View Universe movies, because I'd read online all the time. I held up a newspaper. I'd read online all the time. Like, ew, he's making another Jay and Silent Bob movie. All he does is those Clerks movies and stuff. And I was young then, so I listened, and I was like, oh, I should stop and do something else. That's where Jersey Girl came from. Now, post-heart attack, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Like, I almost died. You think I give a shit what some stranger writes about me now? So at that point, I'm like, I don't care if somebody's like, ew, he's doing these movies again. For example, after this, we're gonna make Clerks 3, and after that, we make Mallrats 2. And I know some people will be like, ew, he's just sequelizing all his old stuff. But I'm like, I'll point out, a few years ago, I was frighteningly original with that Walrus movie, Tusk, and everyone was like, stop it. Go back to your old movies. So now I am back at the old movies. And in a world where I'm like, you know, post-heart attack, I'm like, well, I don't really have to listen to anybody anymore because I'm living on borrowed time. I felt old. And I felt like the way to feel young would be to go up in the attic, pull down all my old toys, and play with them again. And so that's where I am right now. And it's weird because whoever wrote that probably doesn't remember writing it and probably is happy to see that I'm doing this years later, maybe, or at least mildly curious and stuff. But it's crazy the impact that strangers can have on our work until something more important happens, until another voice, a more authoritative voice, the one from the grave going, you ain't got time, fucker. You ain't got time to worry about this shit. Suddenly you're able to put away childish things and concentrate on more childish things.
I am not Ted Underhill.
Oh, fuck, he's got a secret identity.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jay, and this is my hetero life mate, Iron Bob!
He's a Robert Downey Jr. Oh, Marvel gonna sue somebody.
It's an amazing cast you've rounded up for this. Obviously, you've worked with most of those people before. How was it kind of getting all those guys, getting the band back together?
It was very cool. You know, we did it piece by piece, almost like in the Blues Brothers. We didn't know when we headed down to New Orleans, that's where we shot the movie, we would have a cast like that. The only cast we had at that point was me and Jason and Harley. And then we had Diedrich Bader said yes, Jason Biggs said yes, and Melissa Benoist said yes. And that was it. So I was like, I don't know if anybody's gonna come down here, man. I don't know if we're gonna have the star-studded affair we had last time and whatnot. But what I did not take into consideration were two things. Number one, we were shooting in New Orleans, which is where Mardi Gras happens, and we were shooting during Mardi Gras. So you would call people up and be like, do you wanna take a trip to New Orleans to do 2 lines in the movie? They're like, you're gonna fly me to Mardi Gras and put me up for the weekend? Done and done. That's why Craig's in the movie. Craig's like, I wanna go to Mardi Gras. So he came down to be in it. Then the other thing that benefited the movie was the heart attack. So I'd call up people, be like, hey man, you wanna come down to New Orleans, do a couple lines in the movie? Be like, I don't know, dude, New Orleans is awfully far. I'd be like, you do remember I almost died last year, right? And they're like, all right, I'm coming. Honestly, I think that's the only reason we got a few people is they just wanted to show up to see if I was still alive. So it was nice, it was very affectionate. Like, you know, a lot of old home weeks, people coming back and stuff like that, all of us older. Some things weren't planned for. Ben and Matt were never in the movie because I hadn't spoken to Ben in like a decade, so I wasn't like, I'm gonna include him. We reached out to Matt, never reached out to Ben and stuff because I hadn't spoken to him in like a decade. Matt was like, the word was he was on vacation, we never heard back from him. We heard back from him once we wrapped the movie. His agent was like, Matt's ready, and we're like, we finished the movie, we have nothing left to do. And then there was gonna be a little cartoon that brought Jane, Silent Bob from New Jersey to Chicago, like the Raiders of the Lost Ark map that takes you from place to place. So I was like, well, instead of doing that, I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna have Matt come out on a white screen and be like, hi, I'm Matt Damon. Apparently I still owe Kevin Smith. I'm here to tell you that Jay and Silent Bob went from New Jersey to Chicago. I am cheaper and more expensive than a montage. Good night. And then he'd walk off. And my wife was like, that's cute, but why don't you just use him as Loki? You never use him as Loki in Dogma. And I was like, Loki died in Dogma. She's like, that's a movie, asshole. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So I reached out to him and I was like, I hear you're coming to play. Do you want to play Loki? He goes, I would love to. Can we still get the costume? I was like, it's jeans and a hoodie. Yeah, we could pull that off. So he came in last minute. Chris Hemsworth, that was because of like, he'd said something about me during Ragnarok in some Vanity Fair interview. He's like, Kevin Smith said something on a podcast and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Chris Hemsworth knows my name? So a year later or whenever, when we were shooting the movie, I said, someone reach out to Chris Hemsworth. Maybe he'll want to do this. And his manager answered, and his manager goes, the only reason that I'm in this business is because I saw Clerks when I was a kid, and it made me want to be in the movie business. So he's like, I'm going to try to make this happen. And he did. He made it happen and stuff like that. Ben came in way late in the process. I hadn't spoken to him in, like I said, a decade, so I didn't even think to include him and stuff. But there was an entertainment journalist, Kevin McCarthy, who does the junkets, and every time he interviews people who've been in my movies, he asks a question related to my movie. So if he's interviewing Matt, he'll be like, hey man, when are they gonna make Good Will Hunting 2 hunting season? And Matt's like, what are you talking about? And then he's like, oh, that movie I made years ago. It's a nice icebreaker, right? He did it for Ben while we were in production on our movie, on Reboot, and Ben was promoting a Triple Frontier on Netflix, a different movie. And Kevin McCarthy, the journalist, they asked him, he's like, hey man, he took 4 seconds, 10 seconds max out of his 4 minutes to ask a question that had nothing to do with his interview. He's like, they're making Jay and Silent Bob Reboot right now, man. Are you in it? And Ben goes, no, nobody called me and I'm not busy. And so right then and there on set, everyone's like, did you see this clip? He said nobody called him. I was like, yeah, that's just a nice thing to say to Junkie. He don't mean that stuff. And I reached out to him and he did mean that stuff. And suddenly we got him in the movie. I saw Kevin McCarthy at the Avengers Endgame premiere. He was like, you ready to watch this? I was like, I am, but first I got to tell you a story, man, that nobody knows, and you can't tell anybody yet. So I told him the story about how, because he asked Ben that question, it trickled down to Ben being in our movie, where not only did I get the finest scene in the movie, but I got my friend back in real life. And I was like, bro, never let anybody tell you entertainment journalism is not important. Like, you filled a massive hole in my life. Entertainment journalism got me here. Long before there was an internet, the only way, if you loved movies, to find out about them was in the newspaper and stuff. People writing articles about movies. Like when the internet happened, that suddenly we could dive deep, you know, and get access 24/7 to that information. So I told him, I was like, keep doing it, man. You changed my movie. You changed my life. You made it a better movie. You made my life better because of it and stuff.
And on that note, we cue the music.
Fuck! I'm glad you guys are smoking back there. I was driving someone about a week ago, and he took a big shit. You have no idea how hard it is to get the smell out of pleather.
Yo, methods. Let's do this.
Yay! It's Jay and Silent Bob.
I just found out I have a kid, but I don't know how to be a father.
Anybody with cum can be a father, but only love can make you a dad.
How you gonna talk about love and you flinging cum all over the place? That shit's unseemly, bro.
What do you guys think about this reboot?
It sucks. There, I said it. And who's directing this shit anyway? Kevin fucking Smith?
Smells like this reboot went up in smoke.